The Castle Whispers. Written and narrated by Lady Spookaria. There are castle ruins near the village I live that I often go to for some tranquility. When I'm off school for the summer, it is my favourite place to spend a majority of my time, and is where I can frequently be found. Only the barest of outlines remain. The roof had long since collapsed, and the walls were jagged, the stone foundation bare to the elements. I walked along what had once been a large building, and always wondered what was beneath the earth. Nature was quick to reclaim the land for itself. The ground was coated in a thick, lush grass and other bits of vivid green foliage. I took my bag, my drawing pad, and some charcoal to sketch and relax. It was my refuge, my happy place, one I could always go to, and I had such fond childhood memories here. I don't remember a time when I didn't come here. I think I used to come here with someone. I had my favourite spot under an old tree with long twisted roots, and a large branch shaded me from the heat of the midday sun. Phone reception was pretty spotty up here, and that was part of why I enjoyed it. Technology usually didn't work for me anyway. Besides, I could have my solitude without worrying about other people contacting me out of the blue. I laid down my blanket, sit with my back against the tree, and mindlessly sketch whatever was in front of me. The sound of charcoal against the surface of the paper was soothing, and sometimes I would draw what I saw, and other things I would just imagine. There were random visitors like me who wanted to check out some of the local history, and be close to nature. There were also some of the birds and other wildlife that had made the ruins their home. Or, I could draw what the castle whispered to me. My grandmother always believed that places had spirits of their own, or there were those who became adopted by the place. They would either welcome you, or they would be hostile. It was important to be patient and polite with them to accept you. The reason why I believed spirits were here were the finer details of my sketches. There would be a head poking out from a window that was not there, a shadow in the wrong place, and it was by chance I heard the whispers for the first time. I relied on the natural sounds of the ruins, and the rare moments of company I'd have from other wanderers. Those who saw me tended to focus on their own moment of peace, and I was grateful. While I felt calm, I always had a feeling I was waiting for something. The rustling sound of leaves, of different birds and insects chirping, and the sound of the wind. Always the whispers were there. Sometimes I couldn't understand them, thinking they were little thoughts trickling in as my imagination took hold. I couldn't make out any of the words. All I could tell was that people were there, speaking with me. It sounded like the old phrase here and there. The voices would change between being male or female, young and old, happy and angry. I kept up with my sketches, the figures in them becoming more visible with every strike of my charcoal. Sometimes, I'd see the reflection of a man or the face of a little girl in the sketches. Daylight didn't last forever. It was getting late, and I knew I had to be heading home. I picked up my bag, and I heard it clearly for the first time. "I'm here." The voice was soft, delicate, and it caused me to look up from my task. The summertime meant that the light would linger for a long time, before finally the darkness of night would claim the land. I walked home down along a long dirt pathway. It was maintained enough to ensure it hadn't become overgrown, but not enough to remove the natural, unkempt edges. On the way, it felt as though the spirits were watching me, and I was the focus of their attention. Unconsciously, my steps became quicker, and I made my way home as quickly as possible. My night would be considered dull to many others. I came home to my parents, ate my favourite meal, cleaned up and soon got ready for bed. I was eager to return to the ruins again, My home away from home. I slept, without nightmares or dreams. When I woke up, I was refreshed and happy. I washed up before I walked into the kitchen, and into the aroma of a full breakfast cooking. My stomach grumbled and I began to help myself, chatting away to my mum, who spoke very few words and focused on her task of cooking. She cooked all my favorite meals, donating what we didn't end up eating, and would hum my favorite lullaby. Once done, I showered, dressed, gathered my sketchbook and made my way. As I walked, I noticed people were focused on going about their daily lives, ignoring me, and that suited me just fine. It was still dawn. The morning frost still lingered on the foliage, and I was in heaven. I made my way up the desolate and silent pathway to reach my favorite destination. When I walked up the hill, I saw that I was not alone, and a person had taken my desired spot. I frowned, irritated, and looked around to find another spot that I could claim for the time I was there. Nothing felt right, and I had the urge to explore the ruins in ways I didn't do since I was young. As I walked through what used to be an old corridor, I remembered how I used to run through here as a child, with a group of the neighborhood children. We would make up stories about the lords and ladies who once lived here. We'd have epic play battles in the courtyard, and our days would be filled with happiness. I couldn't remember what happened to them all. Did they move away? I looked up. The stairs had been damaged over the torment of time and lack of maintenance. I looked at the upper levels, wishing I could climb up and see what was at the top. I'm not sure if I felt brave or foolish. I looked around to try and find a safe way up. My footsteps broke twigs and crunched leaves as I walked.
Come this way. You're really close.
I heard it this time, crystal clear and ever so faint. The voice came from around the corner, in a section I didn't remember exploring. I walked towards it and saw a weathered and fallen caution sign. The rocky wall had enough holes and protruding rocks to make it easy to climb.
Up. Go up and you will see.
The whisper came again, this time from right behind me. I jumped in surprise at the sound. It may have been foolish, but I did it. I climbed up, my bare hands on the rocks, and fortunately, enough time had passed for the frost to melt. With a groan, I pulled my body up and moved to where I guessed the support beam was beneath me. The higher view was beautiful, and I got a better view of the village that was home to me, along with the neighboring fields. I opened my backpack and took out my sketch pad, only to find there were nothing but blank pages, one after another. I flipped through them, trying to make sense of them, and came to the last couple of pages. There were broken human figures around the beautiful castle. Where had my drawings gone? I dropped the sketchbook.
You will see. You will see what happened.
I looked around, expecting to see shadows of people standing behind me, and there were none. I was alone. I felt eyes on me, watching me, and I gave an impulsive shiver.
Keep climbing. We need you to see.
I could only hear one voice now. All the others blurred into it. Many sources speaking through one voice. And it sounded so familiar. Almost like home. Soon I found a way up the rampart. This time it was harder to climb. A couple of times I thought my grip would fail and I'd fall. It was always in the back of my mind. I never slipped once. And soon I found the highest part. There were old nests from birds who flew away long, long ago. Cobwebs and other signs people hadn't been up here for an incredibly long time. The view from here was spectacular. I could see in all directions. I could see far, far into the horizon. I could see the distant villages and the main town nearby. I could see the mountains my family went on a family excursion many years ago. One of the best days of my life. My eyes moved to the village. I could see my house from here, and there was my mum's yellow car parked in the driveway. I saw the winding pathways and hills. Everything was green and peaceful. I smiled, feeling the breeze in the air, and almost forgot why I came here to begin with.
You forgot what happened, didn't you?
Did I? What exactly did I forget? I looked at the walls in hopes of finding a clue. Running my hand over the surface of the stone. There was nothing, and I kept searching.
You're getting closer to the truth,
the invisible voice said, and gave me no answers. I exhaled, fists clenched in agitation and turned to snap, only to see the transparent figure of a young child. I recognized her from somewhere. Some of her facial features looked similar to my own. The way her smile was lopsided, the small flaws that made each person unique. She had a familiar bald spot in her eyebrow, a freckle or mark on the same place. She was young. She was just taller than my hip, and her clothing was torn. As I studied her, I noticed her bones were twisted and broken. She raised her twisted hand towards me, and I hated that feeling. I shook my head, stepped backwards, and she didn't stop. I stumbled and let out a scream, realizing how close I was to the edge. I pushed myself forward onto my knees and heard a crack when I fell, but at least I hadn't fallen. I was breathing heavily and decided it was time for me to get down. I looked at the spectre standing in front of me. Her expression was bland. A frown on her face hinted towards sadness. Why? Why are you doing this? I demanded. I reached down to rub my aching knees and realized she had the same marks on her own. In a second, her face was in my own and I jumped back up. Eyes wide in fear, I stepped backward, and the last thing I saw before I was airborne was her lips silently moving. The fall felt like an eternity. I landed on my back with a loud, sharp crack, and I knew I wasn't going to make it. I coughed and I could taste blood. I tried to move my fingertips and feet, and I could, but barely. I was dying. When you die, you always imagine it being the worst possible day. But the sky was still warm, relaxing, and perhaps this was a blessing. The ghost girl, or me, stood by my side and stumbled towards me. Her back was broken. She bent down to cup my cheeks in her hands, her face close to mine, and I felt her be absorbed into me. I remembered who the other children from the village were. They all lived here hundreds of years ago, killed by disease, injury, or other fates. They could travel faster than I could, and I wanted to be like them. I wanted to keep up. I'd always been a slow runner and climber. They would whisper encouragements to me, and I managed to climb the top when I heard my father's voice. He ran from under my favorite tree when I fell, cradled me in his arms, and the only sounds emitted were his choking sobs. A parent losing their child to death. Beneath me were branches and part of the wall. My father lifted me. I had a feeling it would hurt. It should have hurt. But my body was past the point of feeling pain. I reached up and touched my father's bearded face, and they were wet with tears. He took me to our favorite tree and placed my body down. I felt the sketchbook under my fingertips. Both of our hands were marked with charcoal. And I remembered. This was a spot he took me when he was teaching me how to draw. You're not dead, I answered, realizing the truth. Life slipping away from me, and the realization sank in that my father could see ghosts. My mother couldn't see me when I passed, yet continued her old rituals to keep me part of their lives. He would come every day to wait for me, to see me, to speak to me. One last time turned into many. Time for me was different. I would forget only to remember later. He kept sobbing while I died again in his arms. My body, now in ghost form, reached up and held him before I must have run out of energy and disappeared, unable to be seen or heard by him. I watched him cry before he left. He walked down the pathway and he would return the next day. I wondered what would happen when he finally passed away. Would he return here? Or would his soul reside where he passed? I didn't know. I opened the sketchbook and it showed his view, not mine. I would draw the world through his living eyes. He could see me and hear mine and the other children's whispers. Not that I would remember. Already, I could feel the memories slipping away, leaving me. Each time we would talk through the sketchbook. If only I remembered. Always listen to the castle whispers, even if you forget what they end up telling you. I hope you enjoy this story. What did you think of it? Let me know what you thought in the comments section down below. Don't forget to stab the like button, subscribe, hit the bell and leave a comment. This video is made with the support of my incredible channel members, Patreon subscribers and all my viewers. Thank you so much for supporting me. Don't forget to check out my social media accounts below, including my merch. Stay safe, my little spooklings. And remember, I'll be watching you.